Hello, hello. This is Matt, and this is another GameSalad tutorial from the Activate series for creating games in GameSalad. The game that we will make today is called Water Saver Sprint, and a couple of notes really quickly. This is a beginner level tutorial. It's not the first one though. I would recommend going first through the drop cycle tutorial, which covers some of the most basic aspects of using GameSalad. This is still a beginner-friendly one, but I'm going to move a little more quickly through using the software. So should be no problem to follow along, but I encourage you to check out Drop Cycle first. This is also a video companion to a written version of the tutorial, which you can find on the website. That is a little slower. It goes into more depth and commentary, so feel free to check that out as well. A couple of things that you'll need, of course, the GameSalad software. You'll also need to download the folder of resource files for the game. And I would encourage you to play the game on the website just to get a feel for it. But this is it on screen, so let's take a look at it and see what we're going to make. Water Saver Sprint is a game for 2 players who are racing to be the first to turn off the hose that some careless person left running in the middle of the lawn. And one player taps one key to race forward, the other taps another key, and whoever gets there first shuts off the water. That's all there is to it. So this is a very simple game, great introduction to GameSalad, and it's also a way to see how easy it is to make a multiplayer game. So let's get started. Go ahead and open up a blank project in GameSalad. I have one here. And then give it a title. You'll need to make sure to select a platform. And that is the device that your game is made for. What we're choosing for this series is GameSalad Arcade, which lets you publish the game on the internet. Feel free to choose another platform if you like, but it will change the screen size, so do that at the beginning, not later. Give the game a description and instructions if you like, but let's just dive right into it by clicking on the Scenes tab and then double-clicking on Initial Scene. So the first thing that we want to do is add in the images from the resource folder so we can use them. And we can do that here in the library. Click on this Images tab, and then you'll see there's this big blank space. And now open up the Resource Files folder, and inside you should have a Sprites folder with images. And we'll need all of them, so go ahead and choose them, and then drag them right into that space in GameSalad. And there they are. Now, the thing to note is that we can't use the images by themselves. We have to attach them to things, and those things are called actors. They're like containers, and those are the things that we can actually control in the game. So we need to make an actor for each of these things. Oh, and you'll of course notice that there are 3 images for the hose. That's because we are going to animate the hose to make the water appear to flow. So we'll get to that. Right now we can just use one of the images, but the way to make an actor that we can control is simple. All we have to do is drag the image from the library into the Actors tab of the inspector, which is here. And you'll see it creates an actor with the image of Racer 1 attached, and it even copies the name, which is very nice. So we can do the same thing with Racer 2. And then we don't need all 3 of these images to have their own actors. We just need one. So let's see if we can figure out which one is the first one. It's this one. So drag that one in. And then we can change the name by clicking on it and just call it hose, just for simplicity's sake. Okay, and let's go ahead and add Racer 1 to the scene, which is this black box here. I'll drag him in, drop him on the left side. And now, of course, if I run the game, there he is, but nothing happens. And that's because we haven't told him to do anything. And the way that you tell actors to do things in GameSalad is called behavior. So we need to give the Racer 1 actor some behavior. And to do that, we double-click on Racer 1. And you'll see that we're in the Racer 1 prototype. That means that any behavior we assign to the actor will apply to any instances of the Racer 1 actor that we place in the scene. So we have one here. We could make more if we wanted, and all of them would do whatever behavior we give to the prototype. We only need one, but just bear that in mind. It's a useful trick in GameSalad. So always make sure that you're choosing the prototype, and you can see it up here. So what do we want to do? We want to make it so that if we press a key, the racer moves forward. And that means that we need to create a rule. A rule, which you'll see if you click, sets up a specific condition for behavior to occur. And the condition that we want in this case is a key press. So we'll leave this on actor receives event. That just means that the racer1 actor is paying attention to the state of the game. And we'll change mouse position to key. And now we can click on keyboard and get this nice pop-up, and then click on write. And of course we want the key to be down, so that's fine. Now we need to say what to do when we press the right arrow key. And of course we want to move the actor, so we need to look for that. And we look for that in the Behaviors tab of the library. So go down here and click on Behaviors. These are organized alphabetically, so we can scroll down to the M's. We have both move and move to. And in this case, we're essentially having the racer take a step every time we press the key. And a step is basically a destination that's as far away from you as your step's width or its length is. So it makes sense to use move to. We can drag that into this rule. And we need to specify what the destination should be. So in this case, let's have the actor racer1 move 5 units to the right whenever we press the right arrow key. So we can change 0 to 5. And you'll notice, by the way, that these you have these arrows here. This one indicates that this is the direction in the x-axis, which runs from left to right. And this up arrow means it's the y-axis, which runs from bottom to top. We don't need any vertical movement, so we can just change the x-axis, which we've set to 5. We can leave this on 300 for the speed. Feel free to tweak these numbers if you want, but this is a good choice. We can check this run to completion button. All that means is that if for some reason this rule stops applying, like the key is no longer pressed, before the actor has moved 5 units, he'll still finish moving the 5 units. Probably not an issue since the amount of movement is so small, but we'll do it just in case. The last thing, and this is very important, that we need to change is this, relative to scene. We need to change it from scene to actor. And the reason we need to do that is because we want to move 5 units to the right of wherever the actor is currently. And so his movement is relative to his current position. So that's why this needs to be on actor. But now, if we try it, I can press the right arrow key, and he moves forward. And if I press and hold, he only moves the 5 units and stops moving. And that's because I have to release the key and press it again before the behavior will trigger again. So that's exactly what we want, which is great. And that's all there is to racer1. So we're done with him. And now we can add racer2. So I'll drag him into the scene on the right. And remember, this actor is going to be controlled by a second player. So you might think that would be complicated, because it took some work to make racer1. But this is someone going the other direction, and he's being controlled by different players. So it might seem like it would be hard, but actually it's really easy. Because if you think about it, the behavior for racer2 will be identical to racer1's behavior. It's just that instead of moving to the right, he's moving to the left. And instead of moving with the press of one key, he's moving using a different key. So we can reuse all of the work that we did on racer1 by using copy and paste. And so I can click on this rule, and the blue border around it shows me that it's selected. And then I can use my computer's copy command. And if you don't know what that is, you can also go up to the edit menu for GameSalad at the top and choose copy. And then click back and open up racer2. Click inside this window to make the behavior window the active window, and then do paste. And there's the same behavior. And all we need to do is change it to our specifics for racer2. So I'll click on keyboard again, and now I'll click on the A key. And then for move 2, we don't want to move 5 units to the right anymore. We want to move 5 units to the left. And that means we need to move -5. Because negative means right to left instead of left to right. Everything else stays the same. So now, if we run the game, you'll see that pressing the right arrow key makes racer 1 move, and pressing the A key makes racer 2 move. And they both work. And they run head into each other. But not really, because we didn't do anything for collision. That's great. We've got our 2 players, but right now they don't have anything to race toward. There's no goal. So we need to add that, and that, of course, will be our hose. So we can drag that into the scene, drop it in there. And we can click on it, make sure it's centered, and that dot is just about in the center, so that's perfect. But if we run it, we'll see that the water is very static. It doesn't move. It doesn't look like the water is actually running, which is the point of the game. So to achieve that running water look, we need to animate the hose. So now is the time where we're going to use those extra images. And you remember seeing those at the beginning. So now we're going to use them. And to do that, we need to open up the hose. The hose's behavior. And we need to animate it, which GameSalad actually makes very easy. So we can scroll through the behaviors and we can find animate and drag that in. We get this blank box, and it's not immediately apparent what you're supposed to do with it, but if you remember when we clicked on the Images tab to import the images, we had a blank box here as well, and we dragged and dropped images in. So we're going to do the same thing here. And what we're going to do is drag the images that we want to animate into this box. So you need to make sure they're in the right order. That's important, or the animation will look wrong. So here's number 1, and then here is, I think, hose frame 2. Yep. And then finally hose frame 3. And you'll see they're numbered 1, 2, 3. That means that that's the order they're going to be animated in. So what's going to happen exactly? Well, if you have ever seen a flip book, you know that the way a flip book works is there's a series of images that are very similar, but they have slight differences between them. And when you flip through them quickly enough, it looks like there's motion. That's animation. That's all animation is. And that's what this is going to do. Each of these 3 images is slightly different with the position of the ripples in the water. So the animate behavior will quickly cycle through all of these images over and over again. And when it does that, it'll look like the water is flowing. It's just a digital flipbook. We don't need to change any of these settings. They should work fine. So let's preview it and check it out. And you'll see it totally works. Now it looks like the water is flowing. Simple as that. That's animation. We're almost done, but we need to make the racers shut the water off when they touch it, because right now that doesn't happen. They can touch it, but it's just going to keep flowing. So we need to do something to turn it off. And the first thing we can do is set up the rule to check for if either of the racers touches the hose, because that's going to be how it determines that they've shut off the water. So we can create a rule. And in this condition, we'll change mouse position to overlaps or collides. And the actor of type, racer 1, that's fine. But we also need one for racer 2. So we can click this plus button up here and create a second condition. And now we can choose racer 2. And it's very important that we go up here to where it says all and change it to any. And the reason for that is if we left it on all, both of the racers would have to be touching the hose to trigger the behavior. And we don't want that. We want it to happen if either of them is touching. But now we need to figure out what to put in the box. Because we want to make it so that if the racers touch the hose, the hose shuts off. And we'll pretend that that's, we'll simulate that by stopping the animation. That'll be that the hose has been shut off. But if we look through our behaviors, scroll down to the S's, we'll see that there is no stop animation behavior. So how are we going to do it? Well, we're actually going to do it in a pretty interesting and creative way, which is that we're not going to put any behavior in this box, which is weird, right? It's totally weird. But what we're going to do instead is down here, you'll see there's a thing that says otherwise. And if you click that, click the arrow, it opens up another place to put behavior. And we're going to drag that animate behavior into that box on the bottom. So let's think about what the logic of this is. This says when any conditions are valid. So if either of the 2 actors, racer 1 or racer 2, is colliding with the hose, don't do anything. But if neither of them is colliding with the hose, that's the otherwise, then animate the hose. And even though there's no stop animation behavior, that has the effect of turning off the animation, because the only time the animation happens is if there is no collision between the racers and the hose. So we've totally hacked it. Remember that you have this option. This is very powerful. Whenever you set up a rule with a condition, there's always the situation that happens when the condition is not met. And you can assign behavior to that as well, which is very useful, just like we saw here. So now if we run the game and we check it out, you'll see it's flowing because there's no collision. But if either of the racers touches the hose, it stops the animation and the hose is shut off. And just the same way, we can test it for the other racer. It works there as well. That's it. That is shutting off the hose. And that's really the game. The only other thing that we need to do is change it from this sort of depressing black void to the green line, the lawn. You know, it doesn't look like a lawn right now. And the way we do that is by going up here in the inspector to the scene tab. You can click on that, and you'll see there's an option for color. You can click on that, and then you get this pop-up, and you want to make sure to choose this middle tab, which is colored palettes. And then we can choose this lovely shade of lime green, and that's our lawn. And now hopefully when we run it, it's still black. I noticed this a couple of times before where there's this strange behavior with the background sometimes. So if that happens to you, don't panic. You didn't do anything wrong. It just can be a little unpredictable. So let's try a different color. And now it's blue. That's fine. Except they're underwater now. We don't want that. So let's choose the green again. Yeah, it's still weird. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. Just leave it on green. It'll probably come back. But in any case, you get the idea. Maybe you just make this an underwater battle if it doesn't accept the green for some reason. But that's the game. And so just take a moment, pat yourself on the back. You've just made your own copy of Water Saver Sprint. So congratulations. Think about how easy it was to make a game and to make one with multiple players. You know, it's as simple as just pressing multiple keys on the keyboard. You just have each player on a different key, and you've got multiplayer. Think about ways that you could improve the game. One thing you definitely want to do is play test it to make sure that it takes the same number of button presses for each racer to reach the hose. Because if it doesn't, then whoever has to press the button a fewer number of times, it has an unfair advantage. You don't want that. Beyond that, you know, there's a lot we could do to improve it. We could add a actual victory message of some kind, because right now there's nothing to tell you that you won. And you could make something with vertical motion maybe. Maybe the hose moves around whenever you shut it off and it starts running again and you have to race to the new location. There's a lot of things you could do, but that is the end of this tutorial. I would highly encourage you to check out the other tutorials that we have available. Look at some of the more advanced stuff. You know, this is very simple, but this is the building blocks of creating any games in GameSalad and in anything really. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with it. And work on this game. Check out the other tutorials and have fun creating with GameSalad. Bye for now.